think it's connecting.
Yeah.
Yep, it's up on Twitch. Yeah, cool. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Super Theory Podcast.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the Sorry, I'm going double because I have the have the stupid volume on. Sorry. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Super Theory Podcast. I'm Brandon Martin. With me is Chris Green. And today is episode 3. And Chris, what is the name of today's episode?
I want to call it The Fantastic Mutants.
All right.
Probably because we'll be introducing how we believe the mutants will be involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we'll also touch on the Fantastic Four and see how, based on no inside info, of course, how we think the best way it is that they'll be involved.
Awesome. So, what are your thoughts? What have you been thinking lately?
Well, I think when everyone discusses mutants, the first thing that comes to mind, at least for me, is Wolverine. He has been sort of the staple all the way from the trash human that is Bryan Singer's original X-Men movie, all the way through the trilogy that got muddied up. But the one standard, all the way from beginning, X-Men 1, all the way to Logan, was Hugh Jackman. And I kind of wanted to run past you. Do you think that he is the standard when it comes to a comic book character playing Wolverine? Would you put anybody else in that category to kind of compete with that idea?
Well, gosh, honestly, clarify for me a little bit, because he's the only one who's been Wolverine, so obviously he's probably the standard bearer as far as that goes. But do you mean as far as like a standard, like a bar set for all comic book characters, or
yeah? Would you say you like? Is he sort of the standard that comes to mind when you think of a comic book hero, or would you say Robert Downey's Iron Man?
Honestly, Robert Downey Jr. came into mind while I was just thinking about that.
Okay.
Like 2 seconds before you said it, I think I'd have to go with him, even though X-Men and Wolverine was established beforehand. I think Iron Man and Marvel definitely did a better job of solidifying, and it may just be because Iron Man had a suit, and Wolverine never got a suit, and all he had was claws. So you never really got that full effect, but you did from like the very first, Iron Man movie. Plus, it was an origin movie, and Wolverine came out with the first X-Men movie before any origin story. So it's a little odd to, at least in my head, to think of it that way. That's why I kind of feel like Robert Downey Jr. is kind of the standard. Like, can you?
So you're not willing to put Eric Bana's name in there?
Oof, no, not at all. Yeah, okay. No way.
Now, does it help that no one else has played those roles? I mean, we debate quite often about Batman and who the standard bearer may be, but people will have different opinions because you do have options. Well, we haven't seen the options of Wolverine and Iron Man. Does that kind of help?
I think whoever comes into play as the next Wolverine definitely gets the biggest benefit of the doubt, because all there's been is Hugh Jackman. So there's tons of room for a fully reinvented, maybe even more comic accurate version of Wolverine than we've ever seen. Because I'll tell you the one thing just in particular that sticks out to me that I did not like about Hugh Jackman is body size composition was not really comic book accurate at all.
Well, he even went through significant changes himself. If you look at X1, his physique to now, but he's like 6'3" or 4.
Yeah, and that's kind of my biggest problem is like, whether it's posture or just the body, like Wolverine in comics is usually hunched over sometime ready to, claw someone. But when he's not, he's still a smaller, girthier man. Or
I want to say I read somewhere that Bob Haskins was up for the role initially of.
Could you imagine?
Like Smee and Hook, if you remember that movie.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit's what it is for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely different body builds between those two guys. Rest in peace, Bob Haskins.
God, for sure. And I couldn't even imagine seeing Bob Haskins like in a gym working out hard. You know what I mean?
Oh, that'd be insane.
Like, but God, what a, and he's kind of got that kind of I don't know if he's considered a character actor, but he can pull those strings. Uh,
Oh, for sure. And well, do you think you need a what kind of actor do you need to fill a role like Wolverine for a juggernaut that is Marvel?
Phew.
Because I think we had the conversation before. Do you really get the actor's actor in these roles, or is it another cog in the machine that if you just kind of follow the script, you can pull it off?
Well, I kind of, you know, you mentioned Juggernaut, and that kind of ticked something off in my head. Is like, you know, Marvel has openly said they're keeping Deadpool. So
Right.
Deadpool technically existed in Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and all the others X Men world, and there was a Juggernaut in there. And
Yes.
so, honestly, I don't know what you do with Deadpool. I don't know if him maybe you know what they could tie it to. On sorry, this is a tangent, but you know what they could tie Deadpool into is you know at the end of Deadpool 2, he goes back in time and like saves what's her face and kills that saves his lady and kills that dude. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so he has that time. I don't want to call it a time machine, but that thing that Cable has, he can you know he can step through different points of time.
Right.
Is that his way into the MCU and allowing a whole new cast of characters that he's already previously been around and seen?
So you think this could be a way to involve Hugh Jackman in the
Not
future series?
necessarily. But God, I mean, first of
Because he
all,
did go back and kill his original. I get what was that X Men Origins, where he went back
mm-hmm,
and killed his other Deadpool
that's
version. Well, that's in front of Hugh Jackman.
that's right. Uh,
So,
man, I forgot about that. That's so funny. Uh, uh, I mean that you know, and there was, you know, I'm not saying anything super new. I mean, it was talked about that the time, I'm gonna call them time watches because they basically go around the wrist or the hand that they wore in game was very similar shape wise to the one that Cable wears, but even though it's not the exact
right.
same thing, but it does technically do the same thing in some ways. So that may be where they tie in the MCU is they allow them to step through their time into their, especially now that the multiverse is coming into play, like that would allow them to go there. Uh, Going back to the original question though, as far as like what kind of person do you need to be a Wolverine? Do you go young and try to start origin story ish, or do you start in the middle? Do you want someone who's aged? And do you want to continue on with someone that almost resembles a Hugh Jackman esque, like a taller, like, do they want to stay with that body type? Are they going to switch it and try to go comic accurate, or would they rather have someone who's as tall as he is? Uh,
Well, will you go on record? Do you want Hugh Jackman to make an appearance, or do you want a new Wolverine completely?
Uh, Honestly, if he came back, I wouldn't mind. But honestly, Logan should be his way out.
Even if they do some time travel esque.
You know, if they want to pull him in for something like that, I'd be all for it. But I honestly, in my mind, it looks like Feige's probably going for a full build. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
he gets to start from the ground up, and
Well, do you have someone in mind that you let's say they come to you tomorrow and say, give us a short list. Who would you like to see? And this way, you could, you know, I don't remember if Wolverine's height is ever addressed in the comics, but I want to say it was like low 5 foot, 5'2" or 5'3" for some reason. I don't know who you get at that size that could bulk up enough to basically be a bowling ball.
right,
Um, so I'm really not sure how to really attack it. And then, you know, if you're Marvel, do you stay with a big name actor who immediately is going to feel the weight of, like we've discussed previously, Batman that come in or Jokers that come in, they feel the pressure of the previous role.
right.
Would a big name actor even want to take that on?
Good question. I don't know if you. I feel like if you're gonna pull the star power, that is definitely a character you do it with.
Okay.
Maybe you pull in a big name for Wolverine and then build the cast around that from maybe some lesser known actors and actresses. Uh, Um, so again, there's just different ways of feeling, different ways of thinking about it, and I'm sure they're going through all the different ways they can. You know what I mean. I would love to be in their their war room, basically figuring everything out. Uh, I
Well, what do you feel about like Daniel Radcliffe? Could he bulk up?
Good question. I feel
I
like
think
he's
he's a shorter. Let me check out his height real quick.
yeah, I believe he
I'm
is
almost
shorter.
pretty
I think it
sure.
was actually kind of crazy short from what
Yeah, he's 5'5". There you go.
yeah. That I
He
mean
would
that's
definitely need to bulk up, and he's
yeah.
got kind of a baby face. I mean, it
So
really is kind of a wide open role.
and that's the thing is like it depends on how comic accurate they want to go. Do they want to go comic accurate with a suit? Do they want to go full comic accuracy and get someone that's 5'5" and say, here, we're going to put 35 pounds of muscle on you?
Right.
Because that's what Wolverine is. He's just this. But again, they did the same thing with Cable. Cable and Josh Brolin is not necessarily super comic accurate, but I have a pretty good feeling Marvel's going to hang on to him too.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
so they could say camera wise a leaner uh, CrossFit type of body like Hugh Jackman or whatever might be more the way they want to go or whatever. In my mind I have a few different actors. One, if you want to go older, uh, put in Keanu Reeves. He's a bad motherfucker. He knows jujitsu. He's constantly in shape. He's constantly ready. He has like the darkness in him that would be good for that slash Batman style esque brooding that they're
You
both
think that he would be
known.
willing to sign whoever is going to be Wolverine is going to have to sign a 5, 6 picture deal, a la what Chris Evans had to do with Captain America, because the mutants are now going to be taking over. I would be shocked if an actor like Keanu would want to do that.
Possibly, but he's already in the reins for doing a John Wick 4, so he's got no problem with doing franchises when they're done well. And if there's one
That's
thing,
true. I guess he'll be in the Matrix 4 as well.
right?
I
So
don't
if
know if he was, but I don't know if those movies contractually, like if I wonder if John Wick made him sign like a 4 picture deal, or if
well,
it was
they
real.
they didn't have a they didn't have a John Wick 4 in development until the success of the third one. They're like, well, all right, we got another idea, let's go on it.
But
Uh,
then he would sign a new contract, I would imagine, at that point.
Yeah, but I don't. God, I don't remember who's got the rights to John Wick. But I don't think it's a issue of. I don't think they have him held down as hard as a Marvel contract.
I just mean, how daunting would it feel knowing that a role like John Wick, he definitely had to do a lot of martial arts training to get in shape.
But
We
he's
would be asking
regularly
any
doing it.
actor who is thin to be putting on size, and
Well,
if he's signing, let's say, a 5 picture deal, it's we're talking tons of training for him to go between roles where he's a slender fit to
yeah,
then maybe a Wolverine fit.
true. But he is an actual martial artist. He's not just training for movies. He stays in that, so that's something he's regularly doing. Um, and again, this is just as I don't know if it. I don't even think it's a hard possibility. In my mind, he would be someone age wise, though, if they want to go with the older Wolverine, that would fit that type of feel for me. Uh, if you want to go middle of the road, a little younger, I saw some fan art, and as soon as I saw it, I never got over it. But John Bernthal, who's the Punisher in the Marvel Universe, I think would be fucking extraordinary as Wolverine. I mean, if you've watched the 2 seasons of The Punisher, the first one's great, the second one's all right. The girl storyline got a little old for me, but I love the first season.
Well, what if you had your choice? They ask you, all right, you could have him back as the Punisher, or he's going to play Wolverine.
I don't know, man. That's a tough one because I really do enjoy him as a Punisher, and I don't think there's a better version of Punisher. And again, that's a character that's been around a little bit.
Right.
It's had multiple people play them that didn't really take off, and then he did it, and it was like home run, at least in my head.
Would
I
you
mean,
would you be a fan of them bringing Thomas Jane back to play that character?
no, I think he's kind of past that age now.
Okay.
I did like his wife and his kids. You know,
Right. Yep.
it happened on a, it didn't happen in New York. It happened on in Florida or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Vacation
yeah.
Island.
So I I
What do you feel about Tom Hardy? Do you think that they would? I know he's licensed to Sony playing Venom, but would you like him as Wolverine?
I would, but keep him in Venom. You're not gonna
Okay.
get anyone who can do that like he can. Um, but I think John Bernthal would be a good one. But I would also love him back as Punisher under Marvel control now that the rights are going back to Marvel instead of Netflix. Uh,
Well, I think what's most interesting while we juggle names, it's obviously it depends on what direction they're going age wise, etc. But that largely depends on at what point of the storyline are you going to focus on.
right,
In every X-Men movie, you have the origin story for um, Magneto to be the same. He's around Nazi Germany and his parents get killed. Uh, could you still have that storyline exist on Earth within the Marvel universe? Because at that point, because of the dates that we've seen in the Marvel universe, that would put him as a 90-year-old man. I mean,
yeah,
so something's going to have to change by way of timeline, uh, maybe different origins in general or tweaked origins, or like I think they're going to introduce everybody when a timeline is broken through Doctor Strange, and we're going to see a different version of Earth where you have an Avengers group, but it just exists as X-Men.
right.
That's at least what I would like to see. I do think because of what I see through different accounts that we're going to see mutants introduced in the Shang-Chi movie. They're doing a Mortal Kombat style tournament,
Hmm.
from what I've read, and they're going to introduce kind of B-list mutants, maybe an A-lister in there. I don't know. Uh, I think that's the most probable route, but I think that's what we're going to see by way of X-Men. Even Fantastic Four, they're going to exist in a different time plane, in a different multiverse and universe, and we're going to get them pulled in after the events of Doctor Strange.
So, and here's, in my mind, here's what the biggest problem is, and unfortunately, it's a great problem, but it's still a problem. Is again, not the biggest fan of Bryan Singer as a human being, but in their time that they had those properties, I would say they did a pretty great job of setting up that world. So not only did you have Wolverine be basically the breakout star of that franchise under Fox, where he got multiple solo movies, uh, but Michael Fassbender as Magneto is amazing. Patrick Stewart as Professor X, and God, I feel like a piece of shit because I can't remember old Magneto's name. What's his name? What Patrick Stewart's best friend? Ian McKellen.
Oh yeah, Ian McKellen.
They both did this like fantastic job of playing Professor X and Magneto, who in the comics like have this complicated relationship, and
Right.
I mean made it amazing. And then they brought in James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, and they did a great job of playing those younger versions. So like, what does Marvel do? Where do they even begin to think? Which is maybe why they're starting out with B-listers in the rumor mill. Uh, but like, in my mind, they're probably gonna clean slate it. Uh, if they're gonna bring it into their world, because you're exactly right. They're gonna have like this 80 or 90-year-old man in Magneto and Professor X. Like, what kind of team are they gonna be able to lead in that age range?
Right.
Over a new rebooted franchise in the Marvel universe, not going to be able to go very far.
Right.
Um, so in my
I did see
mind,
a suggestion that people wanted to see Jordan Peele as a Professor X
that would be
type,
fucking cool as shit.
and then maybe the origin story is part of the Rwandan genocide.
Ooh,
So you move forward the timetable, um, but a lot of the mutant. And do you remember what was the show where they were? I think they moved it to TV, and it just had the one season. They canceled the movie, The Inhumans.
yes,
It's the Terrigen crystals that created the Terrigen-causing substance arising as a vapor, the Terrigen crystals, which are able to alter inhuman biology. So they could go, maybe they go back to the Inhuman route, which I don't know, maybe it'll get confusing with the Eternals, which are going to alter Inhuman biology. I just wonder if they could go, maybe.
I got some playback. Sorry.
Oh, you got some playback. Okay.
Sorry, keep going.
I just wonder what route they'll go, and I'm afraid we're not going to really see that route for an entire phase.
Yeah. The one thing about Marvel is they got time to kill. They have less time now that we haven't been able to see movies, and they're sitting on Black Widow and Eternals a little longer.
Yep.
But other than that, they still got time to kill.
So how would you prefer? Would you prefer a scenario where we already see an established group of mutants? Because their stories are so well told, that's kind of also Marvel's advantage right now. Is during the X1 through X3, everyone got very familiar with the X-Men.
Right.
So maybe you don't have to retell every, if I have to see Batman's parents get murdered one more time.
Exactly.
It's that type of thing.
Exactly.
So they do have that advantage. So maybe you do introduce them as a full-fledged, they're in their prime, and they're fighting on a different planet.
Yeah, and so here's the thing: is like the first team up movie that Marvel did in the Avengers. You have backgrounds on everybody. You know what I mean, or at least most everybody. You had solo Iron Man movies, you had solo Thor movie, you had solo Captain America movie. Everyone kind of knew who Hulk was because of the two bad solo films. Although, again, I'm an Edward Norton fan, but there was some Universal rights. Also, Universal also has their rights, so there's a little bit of mix up there. But the main members had some background, except for Black Widow, who we're about to finally get after the entire saga's over. But you get that kind of, where some of these people are from exactly. You have a little bit of backstory on Hulk, and then you have some mysterious people that are showing up for the first time in like Hawkeye and Black Widow. Do you play that same kind of game with X-Men? Do you start with solo movies? Do you do like a Cyclops movie? One thing I do really feel that they didn't do justice to was Cyclops.
Right.
I like James Marsden. The kid who played him in the First Class type stuff did all right. Nothing against him, but like James Marsden did a really good job of like setting up him and Jean Grey's relationship, and you saw what was there, right? And then you saw how James Marsden, or you saw how Cyclops was affected, how he felt. He just did a really good job. But I feel like they didn't really dive into his past in the right way. They they show his past in a way when they show his brother in First Class. Was it Havoc? Is that him?
Yeah, Havoc.
Yeah. Where he shoots like the sound waves off of his chest or whatever.
Right.
But you didn't really. I feel like he just never really got his full justice out of the X-Men stories. I feel like they just went full Wolverine, Jean Grey.
Well, I think that's the key. Do you see, watching back with James Marsden, it was kind of all right, Wolverine likes the same girl.
Right.
And you sort of had that bickering. We didn't care much about Cyclops' past, other than he appeared to be essentially a lapdog to his role within the X-Men group. He was very ordered. This is the way we do things. And that's why he had a very anti-look, as well as the girl situation with Wolverine. Just an anti-look at Wolverine being kind of anti-establishment, just in general. So you get sort of a backdrop with, I think, Sheridan was his last name, the new actor.
Yeah,
you get kind of a
Ty Sheridan.
He was a little bit of a rebel. Yeah, Ty Sheridan. But is he a character that you care about enough to where you feel like his background has to be explored perfect?
I just got to bring this up because talking about Wolverine and Jean Grey, and they're just back and forth love triangle that never fully gets realized, is like it's like the Steve Urkel and Laura of Family Matters. You know what I mean? Like he's constantly chasing her, and was like, "Look at me!" And it ain't happening. Which is kind of funny to think about in that way. But Cyclops and Jean Grey had this whole relationship before Wolverine even came along. We never really heard about that type of thing.
And then Wolverine is basically Stefan.
Right, exactly.
And got Laura's attention right away.
That's right. Urkel. Yeah. Wolverine Urkel. So yeah, I God, I don't know. I feel like Cyclops is a strong enough character that here's what I think. Here's the way I could put it that would probably make the most sense. I feel like Cyclops is the perfect type of character to start off a solo movie in the MCU to build the.
Oh, really?
I feel like he is the X-Men's Captain America. I feel like you flesh him out. You know what I mean?
Do you go to the theater for a solo Cyclops movie?
I think you do if you get the right person to play him.
Okay.
And you make it as comic accurate as possible. Get him. In my mind, I say comic accurate.
I've got a great idea for casting.
Okay, I just want to get this out. In my mind, as far as costume goes, comic accurate to me is you give him like the full blue suit with the yellow belt type thing. You know what I mean? Like, which.
Well, do you do that in the origin though?
No, but I want to see Marvel take that approach, where they took these comic accurate. I mean, Iron Man suits are so comic accurate. I think all they did was really touch up the face.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? And
I think you're right. I think we do get to see those costumes fully realized.
Yeah, and that's honestly to me that is hella exciting, because I want to see that like crazy ass eyeglass thing that Cyclops wears with the dark red metal. I don't want to see him wearing Oakleys. You know what I mean?
Right,
like, right. Unfortunately, that's what X-Men kind of played off of. But anyways, yeah, that's what I kind of think. I think you get a Cyclops who's in the 25 to 29 age range.
Okay, see, so what I was thinking, Kat, and the only reason I think this is if they go older for the Wolverine, you got to make the rest of the team a little bit older. And the first name that popped in mind for Cyclops was Michael C. Hall, who got famous for playing Dexter, because he's the jaw for a Cyclops, and obviously the characters are completely different, Dexter to Cyclops.
Yeah.
But that was the thought that came to mind.
I can see that, and I can't, because I'm sorry for anyone who's listening to this at this point in time or in the future. Not the biggest fan of Dexter.
All right, thank you. Yeah. I'm on the same path because my wife fucking loves Dexter, and yes, the first season is a little bit okay, but then once you get into it, you're like, all right,
yeah.
How long is this?
Yeah, my lady loves it as well. She watched all the seasons. I got to the John Lithgow villain season, and that was like the one I could probably stomach the most. But then after that, the Miami dressed police officers, detectives are the most unbelievable shit to me.
I'm only through season 2, and I'm bored with it.
Oh, dude. So. Anyways, I don't want to get. That's probably for someone else's podcast. They could talk about it in a better light.
Yep.
I could see Michael C. Hall doing it, but I also could see people being let down by that, possibly.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to retract it because now I don't like Dexter. I'm glad you're on me with
that. Man, God, and that's the biggest thing is like, Marvel knows everyone is waiting to hear who that next Wolverine is. By the way, I believe one of the bigger fan casts is that guy from the Elton John movie and Kingsman.
Oh yeah, I almost said Eggsy.
Yeah. Egerton.
Yeah, Egerton. Yeah.
I don't know his full name. I forgot it right off the top of my head. Sorry, guys. Taron Egerton, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so.
He's been kind of the biggest. I don't know why. I don't really see it, but maybe I'm wrong. But he's been kind of the biggest fan cast as Wolverine in a lot of people's minds. Maybe, maybe not. I saw that artwork again of John Bernthal, and I was sold. But as far as Cyclops goes in that age range, like I honestly don't know who you get for that. It's hard to think about. Plus, I also, what I would say though is if you were to take one person from the old X-Men movies and retrofit them into the MCU, I think that Nicholas Hoult could play Cyclops.
Oh, okay.
Instead of Beast.
Yeah, I could see that.
He's been very open about wanting to play Beast, and I could see that, obviously. I mean, he did a great job as a younger Beast. but I could really see him in a Cyclops role.
What about Zac Efron for Cyclops?
Here's the problem with Zac Efron. I'm not his biggest fan in general. Uh, Although he does great acting, and he was, oh my god, this is super tangent, but I watched that movie with Matthew McConaughey, where he plays Moondog. What is it, The Beach Bum? Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, Beach Bum. I haven't seen it. No.
Okay, it is fucking crazy. If anyone's listening to this and they've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Uh, it's hard to remember that Matthew McConaughey won an Oscar in Dallas Buyers Club watching that movie, but he did. Um, but
Is Efron in it?
yeah, Zac Efron's in it, and he plays a crazy motherfucker. And he's only in it probably for about 20 minutes. Uh, but that's the thing. He pulls off some shit that I'm not expecting all the time. Uh, so I I like him, and in some ways I don't. But no offense to him
See,
whatsoever.
I think he's like right in the pocket of if you are going to do a solo Cyclops movie, you do need a big enough name that isn't also going to overshadow if you get a larger name for a Wolverine, Professor X, etc. He would, to me, he fits right in the pocket of a very famous actor
Yes.
who could potentially. I mean, a lot of it depends on director, etc. But yeah, he's already in shape.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just sort of fits that.
He's also been heavily fan casted, and I don't know if he's ever had talks, but he's been heavily fan casted. I believe as was it Adam Strange? Uh, is that his name? Or who's the one in the DC universe that can time travel? Adam Warlock.
Oh, no, he's in. Um,
You know who I'm talking about, though, right?
Time travel in the DC universe.
Yeah, he was. They put him in that Krypton show.
Uh,
It doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure it was the Warlock. Adam Warlock's in Marvel, right?
yes.
Yeah, I believe he's been heavily fan casted as Adam Warlock because they talked about him for Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or 3 or something like that too.
Oh, and then he would be like the perfect human.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I guess I could see that.
But I mean, he has the ability to reach that kind of more fun personality that a Cyclops might have versus a Wolverine. But I could see him putting on bulk, being short, and being Wolverine too at that age. So
Oh yeah, I could see Wolverine
he
too.
could be kind of placed wherever you wanted him in a lot of ways.
Okay, well, I guess moving to
Well,
the
I'm
same
sorry.
thing.
Did
No,
you? Is that the only cast people you have? Did you have any other thoughts on people?
no, beyond Jordan Peele, I would like to see him as Professor X. That'd be cool. But
I love that.
I was also thinking that I would love to see a storyline where Black Panther and Storm end
Yeah,
up together, as they do in the comics.
yeah.
I just don't know how you can rectify X-Men already being on Earth and not have them in the battle against Thanos.
Right.
Uh, so I just can't rectify that or rationalize it. So it just makes sense that they would already be on a different planet, and therefore, maybe Black Panther and Storm find each other, but it would differ from the comics.
Now, what do you think
Um,
about the idea of the House of M or whatever of using Scarlet Witch to enter that world? Do you?
so,
Here's something that just popped up. I want to shit it out of my brain real quick.
uh,
So, what if WandaVision, because it jumps all over the place as far as like they're in different genres. There's like a black and white, a 50s, you know what I mean? Like they've kind of shown those photos of how they jump around and that it's probably all in her head or something like that. What if all of WandaVision is taking place at like the School for Mutants, like under Professor X? Like what if he's like taking care of her this whole time? You know what I mean?
so we would be introduced to somehow she would have to be in a facility
Mm-hmm.
that's run by Professor X, um, and
Well,
then she's unaware of that.
he has the hologram room, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, again, one of the most powerful mutants. He certainly could have helped.
Right. What
So
if he was
I don't
snapped
know.
away?
What's interesting, I guess, what at least what I would like to see from WandaVision. Obviously, how are they bringing Vision back? I don't know.
Yeah.
Clearly there's going to be some reality mutation that occurs, and we know that she's going to be in the Doctor Strange multiverse of madness, so they're going to connect a certain reality with the multiverse. um, for her, it's been confirmed that her two offspring are in WandaVision. So is this all going to be just a representation that she has in her head? How does that convert forward?
Mm-hmm.
um, that's what I'm confused about. I literally do not know how they're going to do that, and I have no theories, because if she's doing this all reality in her head, if they do bring that her reality into the real world, that then confirms she's got to be the most powerful person
Right.
within the group. She can make reality her own without the reality stone. And so if they're going to go that way, then okay, maybe she creates mutants. I don't know.
Hmm.
They did not use. I don't remember them. They didn't use the term mutant. They just used gifted, I think.
Right.
And whenever they first introduced her, because the rights weren't turned over, maybe they'll heavily use mutant now. But they do need to address, why they had to build up for Vision over 3 different movies, and then he was just dead, and we don't know anything else about him.
Do you think that there's a possibility that what's her name? Black Panther's little sister fixed Vision? Because since she was already in the process of that anyway and removing the stone in Infinity War, uh, do you think maybe now after Endgame and everything that maybe they found a way to rectify Vision's body and fix it?
Well, two things we don't know. We don't know if Vision's body. We know that was Vision dusted at the end. I
Hmm.
don't think so.
Can can
At the end of Infinity War, I don't believe Vision was dusted.
can he be dusted if he is not a living thing?
So when he wasn't brought back, that would mean I just assumed he wasn't dusted, and therefore he just stayed dead in the timeline.
Right.
They did not fight again on Wakanda.
But that's where his
Um,
body was last at.
I just assume that his consciousness is somewhere,
Right, like a reboot,
not in his
like
body
a
state.
download program that Tony probably like. You know what I mean? Like a Vision
Right.
2.0 type thing.
Because they kept saying if you strip away the stone, you've got all these different parts of him, and maybe the best parts. Well, if his consciousness is out there, maybe Wanda can tap into that, and then her reality forms the body that she's always known for Vision.
Hmm.
Because we have seen him in the trailer, so he is going to be there to some extent, whether it be her imagination or not.
Right.
Um,
Or is it a could it could this be happening in a multiverse? And you know what I mean? Like
her show.
yeah. And then whenever Doctor Strange 2 comes out, maybe I mean it's already known that she's going to be a big part of that.
Right.
Uh, you
Maybe
know,
she creates new realities,
right.
and
And that's the
that's what's
madness.
tearing the timeline, perhaps.
Yeah.
We're going to see remnants of it. I don't think it's as simple as, well, if we return the stones to the time that they were taken, then we correct the timeline, blah blah blah. Because we already know that the fact that we have a Loki Disney Plus show coming out, that his timeline didn't close. He
Right.
has a separate timeline.
And he still has the ability to go wherever he wants.
Right, because in his timeline, he has the Tesseract.
Yep.
So we know that timeline's not closed. So maybe Doctor Strange is going around closing that timeline. I'm not sure. We'll have to probably explore that next episode.
Yeah,
But back to mutants, I think that we will see some, at least heavily mentioned information about mutants within WandaVision. So that means to me that we will at least get a clue into what direction they're going to go, maybe even prior to Shang-Chi, because I think WandaVision's coming out in November.
mm-hmm.
Is that right? Or is that Winter Soldier and Falcon?
I think that's Winter Soldier and Falcon because they just announced today that they're going to what's it called? Resume filming next month for WandaVision.
Okay, yeah, we have here debut is expected December 2020. I don't know if that's original or if that's now um, a different date because of the quarantine.
Right. Well, it's something.
But,
Just they just said something today. Like it was on one of the sites.
but
Um,
they were resuming production.
yeah, it resumes filming in July, and that was announced today.
Okay.
So, yep.
Okay. Well, then that'll be our first clue for mutants. So I kind of want to change gears and talk about the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Um, would you place the original Fantastic Four, where we've got Chris Evans uh, playing his first superhero? Would you put those movies as some of the worst you've seen?
Mm.
Would you say that they're worse than what's the worst movie in the MCU to you?
In the MCU,
Yeah, do you
probably
Ant-Man and Thor 2 are kind of
Thor
there for
two.
me?
Thor 2 is the hardest one for me.
Okay. Would you rather watch Thor 2 or one of those first Fantastic Four movies?
Ooh, probably the second one with Silver Surfer.
I do like that one better than the first.
Yeah, I would probably watch that one.
Okay. As comic book movies go, those are kind of in the vein of Catwoman to me.
Hmm.
It's sort of like this just sort of pieced together thing that's got comic aspects to it, and it just exists in its own world. Sort of how, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin technically are Batman movies. They just
Right.
exist in their own universe to
Yeah.
me.
The worst universe.
The worst universe, separate from where we would classically want to go watch a Batman movie, in my opinion.
Right.
So, if you had your way, we can talk about casting in a minute. But if you had your way, do you set sort of in the same timeline as we've just discussed in Mutants? Are the Fantastic Four kind of already existing somewhere? Or are we about to see an accident from maybe, I think we discussed in the Spider-Verse episode, where maybe Norman Osborn takes over Stark Tower. And I was thinking maybe the Osborns get involved in some sort of, Elon Musk type capitalist adventure of we're going to send people into space. And maybe that's how there's an accident in space that creates the Fantastic Four in the way that we've seen previously.
That's pretty smart. I like that.
I mean, it'll be a Sony discussion because obviously Osborn is a
Right.
Sony project. Maybe you can't connect those two things, but I think that'd be a pretty cool way to introduce it.
Yeah, I feel, Marvel has like the biggest set of options in front of them of all the things they could do. Um, I like that idea a lot, and it's very forward thinking in our modern times, especially since that's where we want to go. And Marvel, in their world, has created a little bit more of a futuristic present,
Right.
where it feels like it's happening in our world, but there's some stuff that's a little bit more advanced, right? Uh,
Right.
but it feels futuristic enough to feel like a movie, but feels real enough to feel like it could happen outside. Uh, ideally, if you suspend your beliefs, basically.
Right.
So, commercial space travel for that type of accident makes perfect sense. Uh, Especially since Elon Musk was an Iron Man 2 himself.
Right.
So, I mean, all those ideas are in our reality, because Elon Musk is in that reality. So, I don't think they would use the Tesla name or the SpaceX name though, because if it's
He
an
would
accident,
charge them $1 trillion.
yeah, yeah. Well, plus, just framing an accident in a movie based on their
Right.
brand is not going to work.
Right.
But maybe they're a competing company, you know what I mean, where the accident happens, and maybe that's where Oscorp fails. Uh,
Oh yeah, that's a good
it,
idea.
it, this is a very, very plausible storyline.
And
Uh,
in that way, you could excuse obviously. Well, this is why Reed Richards didn't help during the fight with Thanos. He wasn't Reed Richards yet in the way where he has his powers.
shit.
I
The
like
snap
that
could
better than because we know an accident happens to create them, whereas in a mutant scenario, there's no accident.
right.
So I kind of like that idea better.
I think the snap could cause the accident. Uh,
So you think that perhaps the snap, which caused the dusting, also with a time rift, could have potentially exposed
the fan,
uh,
the
uh,
fanta-
the
yeah.
characteristics for mutants, or
I no, I think it would. I think the snap could cause the accident for the Fantastic Four if they're on some sort of flight or whatever.
oh, interesting. So maybe there's a flight planned,
Right.
and the snap happens, and everyone that is out that's supposed to help get them back gets snapped at
Right.
NASA, let's say.
Right. Exactly.
But then they're just out in space for 5 years.
See, that's it. I don't know that part.
Okay.
There's obviously this is all theory anyway. That's the whole point.
Well,
I
they get
just
engulfed by some sort of phase or beacon as well that gives them those powers. Maybe that protects them from the 5 year gap.
yeah, and maybe they're suspended. You know what I mean? Or
Right.
you know what I mean? Because I
Right.
mean, technically, Ant Man's in the quantum realm the entire time.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so I mean, those are all plausible, and again, those would be details Marvel would have to work out. But I definitely think the snap's going to have bigger implications, especially since it was had huge implications in Spider-Man, which is a Sony movie. Also, speaking of space and aliens and shit, I mean, Venom is about to be bridged into the Marvel universe through Morbius and all that, more than likely in the next couple of movies. Um, and space commercial space travel could definitely be plausible just because again, you have Elon Musk, you have spaceships already in this world in their present version of our world in the movie, you know what I mean? So
Right.
their technology could be at commercial level now that they have all this tech. So again, they could play into all that. Um, but yeah, as far as them existing, I think Fantastic Four would probably exist in the MCU world, but it's they are created from a major event.
Okay.
Does that make
Well,
sense?
so
Yeah.
is there anybody else to play the titular characters than John Krasinski and Emily Blunt?
I think that's a fan cast win, honestly. I
I don't
think
see anybody that's argued it, and
nope.
I don't see anybody else that has thought of anybody else.
It's at the point now where if they don't do it, they're fucking up in the way that like Warner Brothers fucked up with like Snyder Cut. Like it's one
Oh,
of the
dude, yeah, especially with John Krasinski
yeah
saying that he was fairly close to
to
potentially
Captain
being
America,
Captain America.
right?
Yeah,
I mean he was like
you
number
already have him
two.
in the pipeline.
Yeah, and Emily Blunt, them being real life, showing that they can act together very well in a quiet place. I mean, it's like all roads lead to them.
Well, do you see the Reed Richards being the next Tony Stark by way of leading the charge?
I don't know if I'd go that far because I really feel like they're gonna build up the young Avengers. I really think they're gonna push Spider-Man a lot. Um,
Okay.
but I think he would be a great ally
Well, there must
because
be a scenario where the younger Avengers sort of fail
oh yeah, they need
and
help.
don't have the option to go look for a new mentor or something to that degree.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
you
I don't
know
know how they'll combine everybody because at some point on screen we're going to see all Fantastic Four, all the X-Men,
yeah.
and what we have left of the current Avengers.
So let me retract. I know they're pushing Young Avengers, but I also forgot about Captain Marvel and how she's supposed to kind of take the reins. So
Yeah.
I think let me retract and reframe everything. I think Captain Marvel because I believe it's known that she's kind of who's going to take the lead mantle now in this start of the phases. You're going to have a lot of adults anyway. You're going to have the Eternals around. Uh, I think this is kind of one of those times where it would be kind of cool, especially happening right now in our world where we're trying to build a real united country and bring all these different types of people together that you bring together, the younger adults, you bring together the basically the gods and the Eternals, you bring together you bring together like the X-Men who are like all these mutants who are born this way, and then you bring the Fantastic Four, who had an accident and forever changed their life in some sort of crazy way. You know, more than likely traumatically. I mean, these again, Marvel plays it pretty
Right.
straightforward. You know, it's not like they're gonna be super comfortable with all their powers immediately, especially because it's an accident and it's not planned. They're not planning to become the Fantastic Four. Tony Stark was planning Iron Man. You know, what I mean, that was his plan to get out of, you know, being captured by terrorists. That's how he wanted to escape. He built Iron Man.
Right.
Captain America wanted to be not necessarily Captain America, but like a perfect soldier because he had this weak body, you know what I mean? And then he took the super serum, and now he's like the perfect guy and can take that, you know what I mean? So like they're
Right.
gonna play the story very close to the heart. I mean, that's what they've been doing with Iron Man's death, and you know, I mean, they know what they're doing that way.
Well, do you then? I guess as important as fan casting, who potentially they look at for Reed Richards, etc.
I tell you right now,
I
I
guess
already
from
I got one
I'm
lined
sorry.
up as far as Hank.
All right,
That's his name,
let's do
right?
it.
The Thing.
Yep. Yep.
I think you get Hank from Breaking Bad. Uh,
Oh.
I I think that dude has the fucking range and the depth. Uh, Anyone who's watched Breaking Bad knows exactly what I'm talking about. That dude, so
So
good.
obviously it's he in the motion capture suit.
Right? Yes, that's the only thing.
Okay.
But
Because they
you
went full CGI in the reboot, and it just kind of looked cartoony.
right?
And then they went full practical in the. I keep saying original. I'm assuming everyone knows I mean the 2005 film and not the 1994 film.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
they went full practical on that one. It just felt blocky, and you don't get to see any of his powers. Um, yeah, that's a pretty good cast.
Yeah. Dean Norris. I think Dean Norris. Uh, I mean, sorry guys, non-comic talk. Breaking Bad is the best show of all time, or at least of our generation so far. I know there's new shows out there, and I know there's shows that are not like Breaking Bad that are really good. But as far as like 45-minute like TV like thriller drama type shit, Breaking Bad is the fucking top notch shit for me.
I'll go out on a limb and say Breaking Bad is better than Dexter.
Oh, bro, that's the strongest limb you've ever held on to because it can hold weight, dude. Uh,
It's an oak that
yeah,
I
I mean
step out
that's
on.
that's a that's a that's a no contest right there. Uh, but
So
yeah,
where are you going for Johnny Storm? Assuming that Johnny Storm will eventually be recast as a different Marvel character 10 years later.
I don't know. Do you get if Emily Blunt? It depends on how they do Emily Blunt. Does Emily Blunt stay British, or whatever? Does she keep her
Right.
true accent, or do they make her play an American woman? Because I mean, they don't necessarily have to do that in this. You know what I mean? They could let her
Right.
be. They could let her be herself, and if you do that, then I imagine you get a British actor to play her brother.
Right.
Um, and
Could you
I,
imagine the balls Marvel would have to cast Chris Evans as
oh my
Johnny
God,
Storm?
there's no way it would happen. There's no way.
That
It
would be
would be.
hilarious.
I think if you got into like a what if multiverse where they do the animated one, you could probably see that happen.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, that'd be funny.
but I don't think it's gonna happen live action. I did love the idea of like a person of color like Michael B. Jordan playing him. Like again to the Josh Trank Fantastic Four. I thought they had some great ideas. Obviously, nothing went as planned. Uh,
Well, did you see the screenshot I sent you where
uh,
he basically all of the conversation we see around David Ayer or Zack Snyder fans wanting the release of the fully realized movie that they intended upon, which now gets a lot of traction by way of the Snyder cut and the Ayer cut for Suicide Squad. That Josh Trank was sending out tweets around the time that his movie came out, and he was basically saying, "This isn't my movie at all."
yeah.
And so it makes you wonder what he had in store for that because I don't. The reboot version is garbage.
So the thing I think I'll say about that is that we're never gonna see it. Um, or if we do, it will be one of those things where it's way down the line. I don't think it's never going to reach the potential of Suicide Squad or Justice League. There just wasn't no one cared as much. Not to say that wouldn't have been good. I love Chronicle, and I thought Chronicle was a great badass movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
Chronicle. I mean, it got that one actor the Green Goblin role,
Dane
probably.
DeHaan, yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, obviously that Fantastic Four that he did had tons of potential, but when it came out and was a bummer, and everyone kind of heard these rumors
yeah.
about
No one's calling for that. I guess
no,
my point
never.
was that
And now
it
that
just shows you how the trajectory of everything could change
oh yeah,
if
100%.
if maybe that gets received differently, because it would have been the first Fantastic Four that people maybe liked,
Oh
and
man,
now Marvel gets that carte blanche, which is kind of opposite of X-Men, or maybe similar in the same, where people were unhappy with how Dark Phoenix went,
right,
and so maybe 5 years goes by and then he's able to clean slate everything, and people
right.
aren't doing the whole, oh well, you're fixing to follow Heath Ledger's performance as Joker, etc. So Marvel's got that kind of ability with Fantastic Four as well.
And you know what's crazy is like if they would have allowed the director to have his vision made, again I don't know what really happened behind the scenes. There was a lot of talk about a damaged rental property and dogs tearing stuff
Right.
up and all this kind of. None of us will ever know what's actually real because none of us, at least me or you, were never there.
Right.
Uh, but imagine Fox letting that true artistic vision being played out, and imagine Fantastic Four becoming a box office hit off of that, and then them having more leverage over Disney when it came time for payment.
Yep. Crazy.
You
Yeah.
know,
Everything could have changed.
and we'll never know
I
because now that Disney owns it, I mean that thing's gonna lie in a gutter.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
I did see Heroic Hollywood, which is Umberto's site,
Yeah.
say that. Did you ever watch The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody? I think it was a Disney show.
No,
Uh,
I
it was
know what
much
it is, but
younger,
I
but
never
it was the
watched
two
it.
twins.
Mm-hmm.
I think the two twins were also on Friends there for a while. They were babysat by Rachel, if I remember correctly. But anyway, one of the twins, Dylan Sprouse, wanted to be Johnny Storm.
I don't know enough about him to
Okay.
give an
I just
opinion.
know that they were on that Disney show, so they probably have an end with Disney.
Oh yeah, probably. But so
But
Zac
I don't know him
Efron.
as an actor at all.
There you go. If you keep it all white, you throw Zac Efron as Johnny Storm.
Oh, yeah.
But if you keep
Yeah.
Emily Blunt British, you find a British guy. uh,
Yeah.
you know, uh, man, I don't know. I don't know who. Where do you go after Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan,
I don't know.
who have both
Because,
subsequently been hired back by Marvel
right. Yeah, that's what I'm
for
saying.
much
You get
better
hired to play
roles?
Johnny Storm to get a better role later.
Imagine that. Imagine your career going that way. I mean, for those of you who don't know,
Well,
I'm an actor, and just imagining that type of thing where you get hired for a job, it's all right, it doesn't go very far, but then later on you get hired by the same company to do that job, but as someone else, and it makes you wealthy beyond what you ever thought.
but think about the first call you get, where you're an up and coming actor.
Yeah,
Granted, Chris Evans and Michael B. Jordan had projects that put them a little bit in the spotlight prior to this, but you're getting to play a Marvel character. You're like, holy shit, let's do it.
yeah,
And then that movie doesn't take off, and so you're just thinking, well, shit, where do I go from there? Where do I go from here? And then you get the biggest role, because I love Killmonger as a villain. He's one of the top, eh, probably top three Marvel villains in my opinion, as far as not necessarily ability, even though he had great ability in it, but
mm-hmm.
his reasoning for why he wanted to be what he wanted to be. Like, you completely saw his point of view in Black Panther.
Sure, yeah, and it's a great performance. Uh, I think it's funny. I had to pull up his filmography because like before he got Fantastic Four, like the biggest thing he had was not another teen movie where he does the whipped cream bit from Varsity Blues,
Yeah,
but as the lady. So you've got like Chris Evans with like whipped cream on his nipples or whatever, and walking around
yeah,
basically full naked. Then you get Johnny Storm. By the way, where he
crazy.
also basically he had to do some sort of weird, fun, like nude, sexy scene where he like I think it's in the second one where he goes on like a ski lift or something, and he's with that girl, and I feel like he melts some ice or something like that, or melts some snow.
I can only vaguely remember that.
I don't know. I may be talking out of my ass right now. Sorry. I'm pretty sure there's something like that though, or he burns out of his clothes. That's what it is. Yeah,
Okay.
he's like flying around and he's like he like burns all of his clothes off. Anyways, hilarious. Go Chris Evans. But yeah, I
Well,
don't.
so just as big as like some of these movies, I guess what makes a good movie now, especially in the Marvel pipeline, is who you cast as the villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be honest with you, as big a fan as I am of comics in general, I have never understood why Doctor Doom is ranked as high as he's ranked on every villain list.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen him ranked from number 1 to number 5, and I guess maybe the majority I've seen him have been through the movies versus the comics. The comics do a better job of accurately portraying, I guess, what his powers can do, and maybe that's limiting what you can do and actually show in these movies.
Mm-hmm.
But man, to have him up that high, he's I've never got it.
I never got it
And so
either.
I don't know if you got it, understand it, and could explain it better to me, but I've just never understood it.
I never really understood it, but I also did never dive super deep into the Fantastic Four comics, so I don't know his full history. I'm sure from what it sounds like, he's a crazy, bad motherfucker dude.
The smartest can do
Yeah.
magic, can fly. I mean, he's got powers that supersede, what Thanos had with the Infinity Stones to some degree. Not supersede or surpass, really, but you get my point. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's. I just don't know who you cast as that to maybe do justice.
I did like the guy that was in the first movies he was a doctor on Nip Tuck or whatever, I think.
Yeah, the Nip Tuck actor. Yeah,
Yeah, I really liked that guy as Dr. Doom, even though the movies were kind of,
yeah, he did a
dumb.
pretty good job because you saw the sort of Wolverine Cyclops back and forth
Mm-hmm.
over Sue Storm in this case, where he kind of had the eyes for Sue,
Mm-hmm.
and she only wanted to be with Reed, weirdly.
Right.
So yeah, you kind of saw that aspect, but who played him in the reboot?
I forgot his name, but it was another young actor guy.
Yeah,
Sorry, I don't have his.
Toby Kebbell.
Yeah, I believe so, something like
I
that.
don't know what he's been in. He looks familiar, but I don't know what he's in. So it's always the classic debate. Do you get an established actor everyone knows that comes with some weight or gravity? Do you get a unknown that also comes with some weight and gravity playing the role? I don't know which way they go, but he's a villain that I think is going to be in the MCU for a long time. I
Yeah.
think we dismiss sort of some of these main villains like Kingpin or in the Spider-Man universe or in Daredevil universe because we're looking more towards Galactus and Kang the Conqueror, some of these overarching villains that kind of take over the entire universe. But we are going to see Doctor Doom for a while.
Yeah, and maybe he comes in as like the next big baddie type guy, or when you're thinking of villains and you're thinking about what this world has turned into now that there was like a giant alien force that came from another world. One of them took half the population of everything and wiped it out, and then went back through time, came back, then he gets destroyed. Now it's a brand new world. A lot of people are back, uh, and now we know that aliens exist and all these space things exist and yada yada yada. Even though we did know that from the New York thing, but now there's a real uh, galactic security type of problem where you need
Right.
people all over the world ready to help out Earth, and we all know it now. Uh, so do the bad guys understand that as well? Which is kind of what I could see Doctor Doom becoming, is like maybe a Lex Luthor type, where he's a schemer and a planner, but he's also got this crazy shit from the accident as well, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But he's so smart that he's like, he's a schemer and he's lining stuff up left and right. And by doing that, he also brings other bad people together. And then that's where you really start to see what we're going to have to deal with on Earth now.
Yeah. Maybe he's the antithesis of the Tony Stark character, where
Exactly.
he goes full bad.
Exactly. 100%. And he's smart enough to do it.
Right.
It's not
Exactly.
it's not like Iron Man 2 where he's like trying to, where what's his name, Justin Hammer is trying to build these Iron Man suits and make a lot of money, and or Iron Man drones basically. Like this Doctor Doom is smart enough to pull off what he wants,
Right.
and that's what they're facing now. At least in my mind, I could see that happening.
Yeah, that's interesting. I could see that too.
And then maybe like the Sinister Six is a subgroup of that.
So instead of led by a Norman Osborn, you kind of have a Doctor Doom.
Yeah, or he puts someone in place like Kingpin or whatever.
Oh,
To
I see what you're saying. Okay.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's the general and he sets up the other troop groups, whatever you want to call them, the
Yeah, that's
armies.
interesting. No, that's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of all I've got. Because as anything, we're just speculating on kind of what we'd like to see. Who knows if it ends up being right? But if it is, we'll tell you.
Yeah, I I think there's a lot of potential, especially for Doctor Doom, and if I think if anyone's going to do it right, it's going to be Marvel.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
what would it take for you to lose faith in what Marvel's doing? I mean, how many? We've had sort of the movies that don't make the cut, like the Thor or personally Ant-Man, but they're still considered better movies than most. I mean, I'm watching Thor 2 over Catwoman.
Yeah, totally.
I'd watch Thor 2 over the first X-Men movie. I don't like that.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm not as high on the first. And honestly, X2 where Wolverine kind of
Yeah,
ventures into this past and all that.
better sequel.
I kind of like the third X-Men better than the first two, and that X-Men
Wow.
gets crushed by people.
Oh, yeah, I'm one of them. Fuck that. There's the last X-Men 3 The Last Stand was one of the first movies I almost blatantly walked out on.
But is that Dark Phoenix? I put in parentheses because that's basically what it is. Is that a better version of Dark Phoenix in the reboot?
No. I thought, people kind of trashed the X-Men Dark Phoenix with Sophie Turner, but it wasn't that bad. I think what messed it up for everyone is the fact that they had to redo the ending because it resembled Captain Marvel's ending so much, and Captain Marvel
Right.
came out first.
Right.
But I thought it was a very decent movie.
So if both those movies are lying on the floor, I'm going with the first one.
You're going with
I'm popping in the first one,
Oh my god!
so I can
You're gonna be
hear the
watching. You're
Juggernaut
gonna be
say,
watching
"It's the
alone.
Juggernaut, bitch."
You know what?
And
Here's my take. I'd rather watch Dexter than X-Men 3.
oh, oh my god!
Fuck that thing. But I'm really surprised that you don't like X-Men the first X-Men movie enough.
I think it's fine. I think it's just a dated entry now, and I've been subject to what comic book movies can be,
Right.
and it's just I think one of those things.
Yeah.
You can pick out a handful of like '90s movies that maybe you still like, but you still admit, man, there are better movies now.
Totally.
And I think it falls in that category. It's by no means a terrible movie, but the visual effects of Thor 2 are bonkers to me compared to if I have to sit down and watch X1 again.
Okay, I get that.
And I think it's also, too, because I know where the Wolverine character goes and where he has to end up to be where he is in Logan.
Mm-hmm.
I've only ever seen Logan once because it's too much.
Really?
Yeah, it's an exhausting movie to watch.
Yeah.
Sort of how like Captain America: Civil War. It's an
Yes.
exhausting movie, but a really good movie.
Yeah, I can see your point there.
Yeah, like Logan and Civil War, those are some of the best movies ever, but those aren't what I would consider rewatchable in the way that I would consider that X3 to be just rewatchable. Because there's no stakes in it to me, even though they try to make it a big stakes movie. It's just a rewatchable movie to me.
Yeah, I get you. The one time I did decide to watch Logan again on purpose was to watch the black and white version.
Oh, yeah.
And that was pretty cool. It did feel like a Western in a lot of ways. But yeah, no, X-Men 3 can fuck itself. Never again. But yeah, a lot of potential. I think if anyone's gonna do the X-Men and Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom right, it's gonna be in Feige's hands. And
It's almost by default too, because man, they're just not that they're not that good at movies.
no, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it led us to where we are now, which is a good thing, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I liked X-Men Apocalypse more than I did the Dark Phoenix movie.
Yeah, X-Men Apocalypse is crazy. I did trip out when they released that purple color grade scale photo of Apocalypse, and they put it up
From
side by
Ivan
side.
Ooze.
Yeah, and they put it up with Ivan Ooze from Power
Yeah.
Rangers, and I was just like, oh god, what have you
And see, that's
done?
when a fan cast in the same vein as Sonic, we should have included that into our examples, but it didn't
Oh
help the movie
yeah,
too much.
yeah,
I like
totally.
that actor too. It's just
Oscar Isaac.
I don't for some reason I don't know. I didn't like his portrayal of Apocalypse, even if that
No,
movie's a little bit better.
I agree. It was good, but it wasn't great.
Right.
I love Oscar Isaac. The first thing I really watched of his was Ex Machina, and that thing is, phew,
Oh yeah.
that shit
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. We're not really sure what topic we're bringing up next week. We're talking about it. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at supertheorypod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that shit. Most of them are the website and then /supertheorypod. Um, Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you're not doing it live or you're doing it later, thank you for that. I did get in some theme music in the middle of the episode that my buddy made for us. His name is Stabilo703 on Instagram. He made us a little theme entrance music. We're going to play it on the outro this time. I haven't heard it yet, so this is the first time listening.
Nice.
But I've been Brandon Martin. That's Chris Green. Thank you again. And let's check out what this sounds like. Ready?
Yep. Thanks, guys.